Okay, so this is the newest mini bike build. I made a video of it before, but it was kind of a crappy camera. This one's a little bit better. You can see how that suspension works. It actually does work pretty well. Gets about 3, maybe 4 inches of travel. And it goes up to about there, and then from there to there, and that spring's adjustable. These springs, the way they're mounted in this aluminum plate, is adjustable. I'll probably have another plate on the bottom of this just for added support, and also it'll lift it up a little bit. These shocks are adjustable. The position of this plate is also adjustable in these holes. So I should be able to tune the rear suspension exactly how I want it. I already sat on it. It's got really good compression. It feels really good. All I really have left is the exhaust, cables, and foot pegs. The motor did not come with an exhaust, which is lame because these are a little bit more complicated than just making a regular flange. It's like kind of it's a little bit different than your average exhaust. So you gotta make something that fits inside that hole, and then the flange just pushes it into the hole. The foot pegs mount to the bottom of the motor, and those bolt holes right there. I have a plate that I drilled the holes into somewhere. I have it somewhere. But yeah, I was checking out this wheel. The rubber bushings are good. The sprocket bearing is good. Wherever that might be. I oiled the sprocket bearing. There it is. And that's good. Those cogs are good and stuff. These wheels and stuff are from a 70, like a CRF 70, and this is a 125. So the brakes might be a little underpowered, but this is not a serious, we're not going to be going crazy on this bike. So this seat's not going to be on here. This one's seen better days, but that's usually how I make my seats. I have like a little grab bar in the back of all my mini bikes, and the quads got one too. I don't know. I just like to make it that way. But yeah, this swing arm is not totally set in place yet. It can slide side to side for perfect chain alignment. And then once it is set in right, I'll just weld it to these plates and weld these in. And I'll weld this whole block together everywhere, and that'll be nice and strong. This is actually through a hole in this plate there, which I don't know if that makes it any stronger, but it seems like it did. I'll have a gusset there, and then probably something here, like from where the shocks are mounted up to the seat or something. And then maybe one more somewhere this way. I don't know, maybe a triangle there. I don't know. But the coil and stuff's going to go in this area right there, so maybe I'll plate that off or something. I could, I was thinking about getting like a long skinny gas tank and putting it in here. Right now, what I have is that one, like a motorized bicycle gas tank. Let me be responsible about that. Put my cigarette out. This doesn't look half bad on here. I think it's okay. Not bad. Okay. I don't know. We'll see. Doesn't want to stay up there right now. But that could work. It wouldn't look bad. But I kind of wanted it to be... I kind of went after like a trail, like a Honda Trail. That's why it's got that frame design there. kind of modeled it after the shape of like a CT or whatever. So maybe I could like, I don't know, take some sheet metal and like kind of cover this there and make this all like plated off or something. I don't know. We'll see. Might be unnecessary. Maybe I'll do it with like some plastic pieces because I have some cheap plastic. And then also when I have some, these shocks are from a scooter and they just happen to go like a piece of, I think 3/4 pipe slides right into this, 3/4 tubing. So I could just slide the tubing right into there and then have that be the fork. So eventually these are going to replace this suspension just because it's lighter. They probably has just about equal travel, this and those. These are from a scooter, like a Honda Grom or something like that. I think it was a Grom. Honda Ruckus, that's what it was, Honda Ruckus. I also got the wheels and tires from a Honda Ruckus. I do plan on eventually making something with these wheels and tires. Some sort of like street kind of bike looking thing or something. I also have this transmission up here, which is an interesting one. Not sure if I made any video of this yet. Maybe I'll take that down and open it up. What else do I got going on here? The lathe is okay. I just got a piece of 1-inch plate steel to make a new cross slide. I had mentioned that in the last video that the cross slide is an issue with this because it's just crap. The cross slide is crap. The way the carriage works, it's very strong. It doesn't chatter at all or anything. And if I lock the cross slide all together and just turn, there's no chatter in this. But when I try to go like this way, when I try to face or something, the cross slide is just too loose and not strong enough. So. And also the headstock needs to be plated. My plan is to, once I get this right, I will build a new headstock. I'll take a nice piece of fat, like metal tubing, and then bore it out for my, because I have tapered roller bearings in here. I got one in this plate here, and then there's another one from the behind. And it's like they're preloaded with this thread here, because this chuck is meant to be put into a 5C, or the chuck is a 5C, like meant to be put into a 5C collet holder or something like that, or an indexer or something like that. So that's why it works, because I can put 1.25 inch bearings on it and then preload them against each other with this nut. And I have the tool for that nut too, so I can really get some good squeeze. So there's 2 tapered roller bearings in this unit here, and then there's 2 bearings here just to hold the shaft. This shaft is obviously separate from this. Another thing I want to do is replace these with bigger bearings and replace this with a tube that goes over this, and maybe even threads on with this nut, so like the tube will turn the nut instead of the inside of the shaft. I don't know. I don't know. And also I'm going to make a tailstock with once the lathes together. I don't know. It did what I needed it to do though. Like when I want to, like I made some pieces just to go inside of here, out of some tubing, and I turned down some tubing so I can slide in and like just extend the tubing and make it bigger, or make it sleeve it or whatever. Not sleeve it, but kind of sleeve it from the inside. This is a brand new 125 manual clutch. Got my clutch lever right here. It's got a lock on it to lock the clutch open. I don't know why, but it's got it there. Up here somewhere is the throttle lever. Oh, it's right here. Throttle with my front brake lever. And then I'll probably, more than likely, have a foot brake that comes from like here somewhere and goes under the foot peg and then up to here, and you push it down like that, like a normal dirt bike would have. I'll have to see how those are built, where they're usually bolted on. I feel like the only place to mount the foot peg would be, well, the brake would be right here, or maybe even mount it on the pivot of the shock, because that would mean that there's no slack ever in the linkage. So I don't know, might be cool to do it that way. But yeah, it's almost done. It's getting there. It's gonna be a sweet bike. I can't wait to see how it does against the quad. This quad it probably makes about 10 horsepower. It's got a 3-speed transmission on it. It's a 212 Predator. Definitely makes a lot more torque than that motor, but these motors have like, I don't know, 12 horsepower or something like that. So I don't know, we'll see if it's a good race or not. I think that this thing's gonna have, it definitely will turn better, because the quads just turn better anyway. So on grass, flat grass anyway, it'll whip around my yard faster, but I think the bike will be faster in a straight line, obviously. But this thing is very surprisingly quick for what it is. Yeah. Yep. It's fast. That quad is faster than my buddy's ATC 200. He's got two ATC 200s. There's one that's, I think it's a 200R or something like that. 200S. No, there's one 200S, and then there's a 200SX or something. I don't know. He's got two of them. There's one that's faster than the other, and that quad's quicker than both of them. I mean, I know those trikes aren't very fast, but still, that's a lawnmower engine there. You know what I mean? It's not anything special. Just got a decent exhaust, a jetted carb, a good intake, some porting work done. The governor is modified. It's still there. Still governs it around 4,500 RPM. Just because I can, and it's better for cold starts, because it'll actually give it some throttle on a cold start, and then immediately once it starts, it takes the throttle off, so you don't have to try to pull start it while holding the throttle. That's the main reason why I keep governors on these motors. It's just better for cold starts. Yeah, you can see the way my intake is done there. And it's got the jet kit that you can buy with the bigger emulsion tube and the jet and stuff. What else does it have on it? I think this motor has a cam on it too. It's a cheater cam, mod something cheater cam. I bought it used, so it's fairly quick. It probably has more than 10 horsepower, honestly, because it really rips for 212. But had that thing for like 2 years, going strong. My front suspension. The only thing I will do on this thing eventually to change it is to put a rear suspension on it, but front end's holding together well. The ball joints on there are Volkswagen tie rod ends. The lower is an inner tie rod end, and the upper is an outer tie rod end from a Volkswagen, like a Mach 3 Golf or something like that. And then the upper control arm is on a pivot, and then a skateboard bushing in the back there. So yeah, she's a good quad. And yeah. I got a racing go-kart frame that'll probably be my next project. Probably have a 212 on it, and then maybe a transmission like that on it too, just because, yeah. Once I put a transmission on one of these motors, I don't ever want to go back to having a torque converter or something like that, because the torque converters just suck. They're really not made for modified. Like a 30 series is really not made for a modified 212. It barely has enough. It's barely strong enough for a stock 212 Predator. So yeah. And I know people are going to say, oh, I've had 20 horsepower on a 30 series. If you've ever seen one of them lock up because they had too much power, you would never, especially on a bike, it's scary, scary stuff. It'll actually yank the belt so hard that it pulls it into the drive clutch and locks it and wraps it around the drive clutch. And actually, I'm sorry, no, it pulls it into the driven clutch and wraps around the driven and then locks up the whole thing. And yeah, nothing actually breaks. It's just that the springs and the belt aren't made for it. The belt will stretch, and then once it's long enough, it'll get yanked into the center of the driven. And yeah, and not to mention the parasitic loss on one of those things is shocking. Shockingly bad, especially compared to something like that where it's got a straight chain clutch. Another thing I'd like to do on this thing, if I ever modify it more, probably get a better clutch. Maybe even try to get one of those manual go-kart clutches, because that would be cool. I think that's a limitation right now, because it has plenty of gearing in first gear, and it'll climb hills, but that thing will get hot if you take it on trails. I've had this thing on trails for like hours at a time, and you can smell the clutch. That's the second clutch and second engine I've had on this in 2 years, but this is by far my most beat on thing. And this transmission's never been rebuilt or anything like that. Although I could if I needed to. So, yep. Probably everything I got going on right now. Oh, it's talking about the front end on this. I'm gonna make probably the mini bike style handlebars when I make that new front end too. Just because I think that'd be cool. But I think honestly, as this frame sits, as long as obviously it's all welded together, it's probably strong enough as it sits. And with a gusset here, there's like a little plate in there. This would probably be strong enough, but I will have at least something going this way. So, yeah, and this is how these motors are always mounted in the dirt bikes that they come in. There's a mount point there and a mounting point there, and then the chain is tensioned on the swing arm. So, yep, she's gonna be good. It's gonna be nice. And this is just 5/8 rod, and most of it's built with 1/2 inch gas, like black pipe. This is square tubing. I do think that I'm gonna rebuild this swing arm, because this swing arm has been used on multiple mini bikes at multiple different lengths and stuff. This is obviously chopped up, cut it, and then took out a section and added another section in there. There are smaller square tube pieces inside of those to sleeve it, but it's still a little janky. I could probably make one that's stronger and just as light, especially if I make it out of like some like C channel or something. I don't know. I just think I can do better on that. But this front end has been on this front end was on my old mini bike that had the Peerless 700 transmission and a sideways mounted 212. I have videos on that on my channel already, and this front end has held up great. There's no issues with it at all. It pivots on a 5/8 pin here, and then this bar has a bend backwards, so that when this kicks it forward here, this lines up with this pivot here. So you can draw a straight line down to this. You know what I mean? It helps with the steering, so that you don't have the front end so far in front of you don't have the front axle so far in front of the pivot. I've seen some old school mini bikes that really have a pronounced bend back here with a long arm. That way you can get much more travel. But it's got plenty of suspension travel from my backyard. That's really all these things are ridden on. I've had that thing out on trails before, and it's funny. People on real quads always want to like ask about it and want to ride it because it's just so unique. But yeah, I think it's going places though. I think it'll be done pretty soon. It was semi-jig built. I had the wheel on a like the wheel was jigged up and the motor was jigged up, so they're straight. But like I said, you can move this whole swing arm can move side to side in this hole right here, because this pivot is not welded in yet. So these will pivot, and this will stay still, and they'll pivot on this rod. This rod might pivot in. I think the rod's going to pivot inside of this. That'll make more sense. So they'll be locked. The rod will be locked to the swing arm, kind of, and pivot with it inside of this. I'll have a grease fitting in the long one. You want to have it as long as possible. That's how my steering joint is done too. My steering joint has a piece of black pipe in the center with just a 5/8 pin through it, because it just works. Seems to work a lot better than trying to use like wheelbarrow bearings or bronze bushings. Or I've tried it all. I've tried bearings from a bike. They work, but this is just the simplest way. I can just slam it together. My bikes usually don't stay together long enough for those to wear out, because I'll just build a new one eventually. I like to build stuff more than I like to ride it anyway. So, yep. Eventually, this motor might even end up on that orange go-kart. Or maybe I'll buy another one, because they're getting fairly cheap. But, yep. Pretty cool bike, I think. Have some design. Oh, my finger's in the way. I'll round these corners off and stuff, and have this aluminum piece look nice. Yeah, I don't know. I'll probably definitely have front brakes. This front brake is held in place right there. This little finger goes into the front brake just like it would on a stock dirt bike, but this pivots. This is this pivot point. This guy's welded to this point here, so it can all go like this as the brake goes up and down, as the whole wheel goes up and down. So then what I can do is, when I put the well, yeah, it doesn't even matter, because the cable mount is independent and the arm goes here. So I'll be pulling right here, and it can all go up and down, just like on a normal dirt bike. I need a new tube for this, and and like I said, I need an exhaust. My foot pegs, I have a set of foot pegs already. I just gotta cut it off the old bike that I took apart for this front end, and then just weld them onto the plate that I drilled out. I wish I could find that damn plate that I drilled out. It looks like this, but it's got 4 holes in it. I don't know. This is the rear brake. I need to get new pads for it, because the pads fell off. But the rear brake otherwise works good, and it bolts on. That bolts on to one of the shock mounts. I think it's this one, and then it goes like that, I think. Yeah. And then obviously this goes on the axle. Yeah, I've lost the plate. Maybe to get this shop organized again. Sometimes I go crazy and I don't clean up afterwards, and then I come out work again and don't clean, and then it just gangs up on you. I don't freaking know. I don't know. This is a. Oh yeah, I already talked about that. That's the bearing. That bearing's good. Can order new bearings for that. Yeah. I think it's gonna be sweet. I think it's gonna be the best mini bike that I've built, handling wise, just because it's gonna be light. Because everything, like the wheels, don't have to have axles like my old mini bike did, and stuff. Like, I'm not using snowblower wheels and stuff like that. Using actual bike wheels and a bike engine, so it's gonna be nice. The shifter is right there. There it is. So yeah, this is obviously gonna be cut like this. and bolt onto there, and then my foot pegs will weld onto this plate underneath it, and they'll come out right there, and then you know, fold up. They're fold up pegs, spring loaded fold up pegs. I honestly think that this might look cool with like a truss kind of thing. I don't know, it might be unnecessary. I also kind of want to make, so from the foot peg mount up, I want to make some sort of like protector for the head of the engine too. I know it's not totally necessary, but I think it'd be cool. And this is it is a lifan Honda clone. Fairly good motors. They run just as long as the Hondas do, honestly. And I used the best point that I found to line everything up with these motors is this. I took off this clutch cover or whatever, flywheel cover, and put a ruler on that straight edge. Went out straight backwards, and then you can put a square on the ruler if you want to, and then you can get your, you know, make sure it's good this way and this way. The foot pegs are good. I had the motor bolted onto a jig on the bottom by the foot peg bolts, and that held it level this way. So, and I built it all relative to the table. It's all good within an 1/8 or 1/16 of an inch. So the chain won't fall off or anything like that. I've had some pretty janky setups that the chain didn't kick off. So I'll probably have 40 chain on this anyway, which is wider than it needs to be. As long as